Well, good morning, teachers. Here we go, week 16. All right, we're getting close to the end. I think we have another 3 weeks left or so. This week's topic is clean air. Is it a human right? Okay, we're going to learn about how air pollution is the world's greatest health concern, according to the WHO, and how our governments and governments around the world need to work towards clean air for all people. Okay, and at the end, the students are going to, at home, watch the movie Lorax and discuss and answer questions about how it's important for everybody to be concerned about the health around the world. So again, our UN Sustainable Goals, it's very important for us to make sure that we teach the kids about the importance of sustainability in a variety of areas, talking about climate action and affordable and clean energy, right? How life on land and in the water needs to stay protected. So opening question, ask the kids this, discuss it. Is clean air a human right? Should all people across the world have access to clean, unpoisoned air to breathe? Of course, the answer should be yes, right? Now, we got two videos for you here to start us off. First one is about London. How in London, there is a period of days, London's always been known for its fog, for its smog, right? Smog is fog, all right, plus pollution. So soot, was really what is called smog. So now, in London, there was a period of 5 days where 4,000 people died in 5 days. And in the weeks to follow, another 8,000 died from breathing in the hazardous, poisonous air that was produced in the city. Pretty intense. And how that was actually not an uncommon thing for people in London to experience. And even still today, London is known for having bad air quality, even though it's greatly improved. But it talks about how the people uh, in the government had to put a shutdown to it. Then we have another one on the science of smog, okay? And Ted Egg goes into some of the science behind it, but also talks about a different kind of smog that was happening over in LA. And it was a different color smog because of different chemicals coming from gasoline pollution. Very interesting. And then we have another video here about New York City, how in the 1950s, New York City, and 1970s, the smog here was so bad that there was approximately 24 fatalities a day in New York City from people breathing in toxic air. And how under the Nixon administration in the early 70s, he created the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and how they came in and forced companies to start taking action and cleaning up the pollution that was produced. So it's not just a problem of air pollution that happens on the other side of the world. This is a local problem too here in the United States and needed to be addressed and still needs to be addressed to make it better. Now, this is just blew me away when Ms. Johnson showed me this. She found this news article that produced this, so the link's down below if you want to check our sources. But here are images from last year, pre-COVID, all right, of major cities. All right, and you can see the air pollution and the fog that's hanging around them, the smog that's hanging around them. But then we all know that once COVID hit at its peak moment, right, the world shut down, right? Transportation shut down, which means no more fossil fuels being burned in cars. Many corporations and businesses and factories shut down or went back on restricted production. Look how clean the air got. It's amazing. We even know that in Venice, right? The animals returned to the rivers. The dolphins, they reported dolphins coming back in, right? Uh, in France, they reported seeing deer and stuff like that walk down Main Street in Italy. Like, that's crazy, all right? The environment returning back to its original state once human beings shut down their production of chemicals in the atmosphere. Now, next question. How does air pollution impact the human body? So we know that we put dirty pollutants in the air. How does it affect us? So we have a video for here to watch. Okay, this video is based off this article right here from the WHO. All right, so they know that 90% of children breathe polluted air every day. Okay, and when you watch the video, over here is kind of like a uh, summarized snippet from the video if you want to talk about and read about it. The important stuff obviously being in yellow. All right, but the video does a pretty good job explaining uh, what is the greatest health concern facing all human beings right now, and how it affects your actual body. Like, what does it do to your lungs? All right. Now, from that, we clearly see uh, that humans have a profound effect on the purity of air. So we can control what happens to our atmosphere. We can control it. And it's our fault right now. We know that. The question is this: does dirty air affect all people equally? All right, well, obviously, we know that the atmosphere and air does not target people. Go, oh, see that group of people over there? I'm going to go attack them. We know that doesn't work like that. But is there a connection between where the dirtiest air exists and certain populations of people? Good question. So, is there even equity in air pollution? Here's a video about a young lady who, in the middle of COVID, put together uh, a, a stance on clean air because it was ravaging Pittsburgh, and a, a group of moms that got together to create a Clean Air Force Act. Okay, so it's pretty interesting. It's talking about the justice of clean air and how it's not fair, how dirty it is in particular regions where certain populations of people live. Now, here's a map that we got. Our sources below from the EPA, and Connecticut did a study here, even in our own state. Interesting. So, what do we see about this map? What is this map telling us? So, I got some questions on the side. All right, questions are: where do you find the greatest population of minority people? Where do you find the highest number of pollution creating factories? And do you see a correlation? So, the questions on the side are to help you walk through the main points that you should get out of this map. Okay. Part of our goal for this week is to teach students to identify, be able to interpret maps and data, all right, and charts. So we have some charts come up below. So here in Connecticut, what do we notice? Where is the greatest population of minority people? Okay, percentage of minorities here. So the darker the blue, it means a greater percentage of minority people. Well, obviously you got Hartford, you got the major cities, right? You got Hartford, you got Groton, New London, you got New Haven here, Waterbury here, you got Bridgeport and Stanford, right? So we see a strong connection between cities and higher percentage of minority people. What are those yellow dots? See, those yellow dots are point sources. Basically, they're plants emitting air pollution. So it's a plant that has been identified that emits air pollution. Where do we see the greatest uh, concentration of power plants or factories that produce air pollution? Where are they located? Oh man, they're all located near the cities. Wait a minute. That's also where the highest percentage of minority people live. Interesting. Now, there are a few other reasons that could cause that. I mean, obviously, um, people tend to live where their jobs are, right? And if the factories are located in these areas, people tend to live closer to those factories, so it's easier for transportation. However, the wealthier you are, the further away from those factories you can live and travel yourself in. You know, you can commute more. So it's an interesting correlation um, that's put together here. How the cities where minority people tend to live have the worst air pollution because that's where the factories are located. I have two maps now, two graphs for you, okay? Slide 13 and 14 are two graphs, all right? This data comes from Massachusetts. So I know it's not Connecticut, but Massachusetts, being New England, is a pretty fair reflection of the states surrounding it. So same for us. You can go again, we put our sources below. You can go ahead and check out our sources if you want. I want you to first have the students analyze the graph themselves. Okay, we really want the students to practice being able to analyze data. Okay, this is big in the science courses and the math courses and part of the new SBAC tests. So can they look at a graph and interpret and come to a conclusion about what it's saying? Maybe you could read it to them. Okay, read the titles and what they are on the side here. But I would like for you to literally just give the students some time to come up with their own conclusions about what this graph means. So what is this graph showing here, okay? Well, it's showing the exposure to hazardous waste sites according to income. So we have mean or average number of sites per square mile on the side here. So number of hazardous sites, okay, per square mile, and that is respected to, all right, being compared to, all right, the median household income. So what do we notice? That in lower income homes, there is a higher amount of hazardous waste sites. As you climb up the income scale and you start becoming more affluent, there is dramatically less hazardous waste sites per square mile. Interesting. All right, see if the students can come up with their own correlation that the wealthier you are, the cleaner your neighborhoods are. The poorer your income, the lower your income, the poorer you are, the dirtier and more hazardous waste sites are located in your community. Now, same data, just in a different respect. So again, we have number of hazardous waste sites, okay, producing pollution. How is that reflected to race? Okay, percentage of population that is non-white. So we have predominantly white over here, predominantly non-white. Okay, how does that affect the amount of hazardous waste sites in your communities? Well, clearly, in the communities that have more white people, there is less hazardous waste sites. When you go into more minority neighborhoods, there are more hazardous waste sites. Both from the same area in Massachusetts, two different graphs trying to display the same information. So how is race related to the number of hazardous waste sites in a community in Massachusetts? And again, we're not trying to single out Massachusetts as being horrible, but Massachusetts is a fair reflection as being our neighbor to Connecticut. We have very similar demographics in many areas. So here are both graphs on top of each other, laid side by side. So we want to ask the students, how are the two graphs similar? What does it tell you about pollution, minority communities, and income? Can you make a connection that, wait a minute, it seems like there's a trend between the higher the income and white people, there's a connection because there are less hazardous waste sites in their areas. And in minority regions, okay, minority regions have more hazardous waste sites, and that's also linked to lower income. Interesting. See if they can try and make some of those connections on their own without you giving it away. If you need to give it away, go for it. But let the students see if they can come up with their own connections. So obviously there's some injustice, some non-equity going on between pollution, hazardous waste sites, income, and race. If students want to get involved and want to uh, track progress from the federal government and local communities and local organizations, here's a bunch of different resources and people that are out there working towards clean air for all people, especially those moms of Clean Air Force. All right, we saw that in our last video. You'll see that in the video that you watch talking about this action group here. All right, they can go to their websites. We just gave them a bunch of different links here that they can look at if they're interested in learning more and how they can become involved. Now, some encouragement before we end it up, okay? A lot of the stuff that we study here is doom and gloom, end of the world, bad news. We want to give some encouragement. Here's a video from NASA, and they have been tracking air pollution and smog from outer space across the United States. And you will see in the video that over the last few decades, not even decades, the last few years, there has been a significant improvement, especially on the East Coast where we live, in air pollution. So there's some good news that the EPA regulations that have been put in place, how individual states have been tightening up on our air pollution, is actually working. We're not there yet. We're not perfect, but it is getting there. It is making progress, and that is a good thing. So just want to leave some encouragement that hey, things are improving in this domain. Now, the challenge. All right, we want students to watch the movie The Lorax because there's a very powerful quote in here, all right, coming from the Lorax himself. He says, "Unless someone like you cares a whole lot, nothing is going to get better." It's not. So they're going to watch The Lorax. There's a few ways they can do it. One, if they have Netflix, The Lorax is free right now on the Netflix. Two, if they do not have the Lorax, so if they do not have Netflix, they can go to YouTube. We put the link down here. The link will be in their challenge. All right, will be on their worksheet, the Word document that we produced for them, and they can watch someone read the book to them on YouTube. That's what that link is. It watches the YouTube. Sorry, someone on YouTube reads the book to them. All right, just like you would to an elementary school class. Or on YouTube is also the movie broken up in segments. In like 30 parts, you can watch the movie if you want to do that too. So there are options there for the kids. So one, Netflix has the newest rendition of the Lorax, the Disney version of it. Two, they can go to YouTube and they can have someone read them the book. Okay. Then we have a series of questions for them to ask about the importance of standing up even as one person to make change. That is this week's lesson. It is a long one, I know, but I think it's an important one and one that's very meaningful even for our students here in Connecticut. Thank you, teachers. Have a great day.